Our first big snowstorm of the season is pretty much here. It's going to really dump some snow on the western UP. You can see from this model output here that's being shared all over social media. But I mean, we're talking a good old-fashioned snowstorm. Blizzard conditions possible there. Yes, everyone else will see some snow, but I really want to dive into this and give you some context and really about what we can expect with this storm coming on in. So I do want to start with actually tracking the storm system that comes on through. So what we're going to be looking for is actually some rain. Now this is starting Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We already might have some changing over from rain to snow in the western UP. Notice we're going to see a lot of green elsewhere. Now it's kind of mixed in with some white, which indicates that it's very light rain. Heavier rain will move through earlier in the day, and then this will start to get replaced by the potential for some snow into Wednesday. So let's go overnight. We'll go to right here. Now this is 7 o'clock in the morning, early Wednesday. You can see the western UP. We already have a lot of snow coming on down. You're getting into those deep purples. That's indicating the heavier snow coming down, while we still have some green elsewhere in Michigan. So where you see this green, we are going to be looking for rain still coming down. But see those blue lines that kind of arch across the state there? Those are actually indicating the cold air rushing on in. You can see the little L, which is the red one, right by kind of Iron Mountain, Menominee area there. That's going to be the center of the low pressure. So warm air likes to go up around it. Cold air is going to swoop down across the other side. And it's actually going to be kind of like a yin-yang of warm and cold air. So that is why we're going to be seeing the potential for maybe some rain to continue to the north while snow starts transitioning in down to the south already. So kind of some pretty cool stuff here with those atmospheric dynamics coming on by. Now I do want to keep going here. We'll go forward just a couple more steps. This is going to be about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Not a whole lot has changed. Now we might start seeing some wet flakes mix in West Michigan, maybe up near the Cadillac area. And you can see how that rain snow line is ever so slowly kind of creeping over across the UP, right? So we're going to continue onward. And by the way, notice that the western UP is still just getting socked with snow this whole time. Very heavy snow. You're also getting moisture off Lake Superior. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment. But I want to go one more step further. Now, this is 7 p.m. Wednesday. We still have the heavy snow in the western UP, but now we're starting to get some of the heavier snow across the southern part of the state. While, believe it or not, closer to that center of low pressure, we still have a little bit of rain holding on, and that could be from Alpena, maybe across the Straits of Mackinac, Gaylord, probably even down toward the Saginaw Bay, and maybe even like Port Austin, Caseville, those areas, while everyone else is starting to see some snow. And you see all those little black lines? The more black lines, the more wind we're going to see. That's actually the change in pressure. Change in pressure means wind. Now, we'll go a little further because I'm sure everyone's curious about Thanksgiving itself, right? We primarily switch over to more of just a lake effect only event by the time we get into Thanksgiving. So that's why you see the darker purples there across the UP, northern lower, especially with that northwest flow, Leelanau County, Old Mission Peninsula, Petoskey, Gaylord, Grayling, Kalkaska. We're going to start to see some heavier snow from lake effect bands coming on through. We'll keep this going all the way through Thanksgiving itself. This is about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We're still seeing that banding. We're still seeing wind, and we're still seeing cold air. So if you are traveling on Thanksgiving, just keep in mind, we'll have the alerts out there. There's winter storm watches and all that, but please just keep in mind that this is definitely going to be a tricky travel day for some of us, not all of us. The bigger cities to the south should mostly be okay. I'd be a little more concerned about areas like Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, but overall, for the bigger cities, shouldn't be that much of an issue. Then as we go into Friday here, this is Friday morning at 7 o'clock. Still have some lake effect, but it's going to start winding down throughout the day. And then we'll start getting into our next storm system coming on by. So again, there's a lot going on with this storm here. And there's still a couple more things that I can show you that's going to go on with this as well. Now, this is actually looking at what we call the Winter Storm Severity Index. What this does is it just takes into consideration, hey, is the wind going to make this a pain in the butt? How fast is the snow coming down? Just what could impact travel. That's what this just kind of takes everything into consideration for. So when you start seeing those reds show up, that's a major impact. What you don't want to see is purple, and thankfully we're not seeing much of that except maybe right along some lakeshore areas. But I can zoom in on this a little bit for you. And yeah, we've got some yellows and some oranges scattered about, but What I really want to indicate here is how prone the lake shores are to some more intense conditions. Notice down the west side of the state, getting into Wednesday, we do have some reds and oranges showing up. It's sloppy, I will say, but you're going to have those wind gusts. You're going to have, the snow lake effect bands blowing off the water, things like that. Up in the upper peninsula, same thing. We do have a couple areas of purple mixed in here that you can see right along the water. That would be up by Eagle Harbor, Copper Harbor, and maybe a little bit by Munising as well, Christmas. So we'll keep an eye on that, but the oranges and the reds is just not going to be fun for traveling on Thanksgiving, unfortunately. So there's just going to be some things that we got to watch here going forward. But overall, you can see this is going to be a pretty impactful storm across a pretty good portion of the state. Now I can also show you what we got going on here in terms of, the winter storm warning, or winter storm watches, excuse me. They will likely be upgraded to winter storm warnings, maybe even be upgraded to a blizzard warning right along the lakeshore. We've seen that plenty of times before, so I wouldn't be totally surprised if we do see that again. But I'm going to turn on the winter warnings here because I think they're turned off for me right now. Oh, but anyway, we do have those winter weather, warnings and advisories that are going to be issued for the most part here. So definitely plan ahead. If you don't have to travel when we have this going on, that would be your best bet. But here's a look at what we have in terms of the winter storm warnings. Winter storm warnings are in pink over to the west. The blue is the winter storm watch. So the winter storm watch is for all the areas that I was just indicating for you. We got northwest, northern lower, and we have a good portion of the UP. And like I said, these could be upgraded to either winter storm warnings or maybe for the western UP, I wouldn't be surprised again if we saw a little bit of a blizzard warning mixed in there as well. But I think it's a little far-fetched at this point. I'm probably going to play it safe on the National Weather Service and just say that, they'll be looking at winter storm warnings for this first one coming on through. But I do want to go back and talk a little bit more about what we're going to be seeing here before we get into the actual snow forecast. There's going to be a lot of wind, and the wind is going to be the main driver as to why we saw the winter storm severity index, kind of go bonkers for some of us. So here's what we're looking at. We'll start here. I'll tell you when the time is, but we're going to start. Okay, we'll start right here. This is really early Wednesday. This is 5 o'clock in the morning. You can see the winds starting to come across the lower peninsula. The upper peninsula, we're starting to get into those yellows and oranges. When you see orange, that is the possibility for a wind gust of 50 miles per hour. When you start to see red, that's 60 miles per hour. So we'll keep it going forward here. And we'll stop right here. This is 10 o'clock in the morning. We're starting to see some of those 50 mile per hour gusts along the lakeshore, both to the north and a little bit down to the south. The reason there's not much in the middle is because that's the center of the low pressure. That's like the center of a hurricane, like the eye of the storm system. Everything's swirling around it, so not much happens right in the dead center. That's why you see the winds kind of making a donut around us. We'll keep going a little bit further. Now here's the afternoon. We are starting to see some of those potential 50, 55 mile per hour gusts, maybe even 60 in some cases. So yeah, a couple localized power outages could be possible. The worst is definitely going to be right around sunset into Wednesday in terms of the wind speeds. You can see all along the lakeshore, 50 to 60 mile per hour winds are possible. Some of these models might be a little high, but still, it's definitely a possibility. And then you can see it's really windy overnight into Thanksgiving. This is when a lot of cold air arrives. So what we're going to be watching for here is even though the ground is warm, we still could get some icy spots out there because it can't stay warm forever. The more snow you add to it, the more wind, which is blowing the warm layer that the warm ground creates away, replacing it with cold air actually cools it off faster. It's like a wind chill on your skin, but kind of for the roads. So it's going to make the freezing temperatures possible, bridges, overpasses, things like that. Now here you see the green kind of overspread again. That's getting into Thanksgiving Day itself. We're still going to have wind gusts about 40 miles per hour. It is going to be very, very cold. Temperature wise, it's going to fall. It's going to be cold as well. We'll start it Wednesday morning here for you. This is actually wind chill that I'm showing you. So Wednesday morning, you can see we still have wind chills holding on in the 40s. Western UP, we're down in the teens already. Once we get into Wednesday evening, though, look how fast that drops. Everyone has wind chills in the teens, and the Western UP, we could be talking wind chills in the single digits. This is also why travel is going to be not really recommended in the Western UP, because Heaven forbid you go off the road, you're going to have blinding snow. Some, emergency services might not be able to get to you. And the cold, very dangerous. So if you do drive or want to drive, take it slow. Again, I would advise against it, but just have a lot of warm layers in your car for sure. Full tank of gas, things like that. Wind chills stay cold through Thanksgiving, and then we start getting into Black Friday, and things are still looking pretty cold for us as well. So again, lots going on here, and now it is kind of time for the grand finale, but we are going to take a look at the snowfall prediction here. So there is a lot going on this map. Notice we do have the possibility for 14 plus inches in the western UP, maybe some localized areas pushing 24. And this is for Wednesday only, so we will have lake effect snow continue for Thursday into Thanksgiving and Black Friday itself, which will add several more inches into the lake effect belts for snow totals here. But overall, Wednesday only, this is what we can expect. So for the lower peninsula, we are probably looking at a lot of the snow in the lower peninsula later in the day, while the UP, it accumulates the whole time. So make sure again that you are going to be safe out there. I will keep you up to date. We'll have more videos like this coming your way, so just please stay tuned for the latest forecast. If you see something that's a little bit after this time period, make sure you check back for further updates. I'm also running a Black Friday sale right now, so if you're an advertiser or sponsor looking to get in on the action, I am going to be having buy 3 months of sponsorship, get one free. So it takes you for a whole quarter of the year and a little bit beyond. My prices I actually took down slightly because I know a lot of people are struggling right now. So just trying to make everything a little bit easier for everyone. I will also be running sales for subscriptions on Facebook as well as Patreon. They start at $1.99 a month, which is cheaper than almost anything you can get at fast food restaurants these days for a whole month of weather information. But for Black Friday, it starts at 99 cents. Now, again, 99 cents, you're not getting hardly anything these days for that, but you can get a whole month of weather information for 99 cents starting off. Spaces are limited for everything, so make sure you sign up today. Of course, be safe, and we'll have more updates headed your way.